My psychopathic mother made my life a living hell until I moved away from her. As revenge, she stalked me and tried to frame me for heinous crimes. It backfired on her, and she went absolutely insane in the courtroom. I was at a bar celebrating my 20th birthday with some friends when my mother showed up wearing a wedding dress, her hair and makeup done in bridal style. When it was finally time for the cake, she took it upon herself to blow out the candles for me and started clapping for herself. When I got out of my seat to dance with one of my friends, my mother literally shoved her away midway through the dance and started dancing with me. I pried her off, and that's when she started screaming so loud that the band stopped playing. She grabbed my ear and tried to scold me, saying I was embarrassing her on her big day. She looked around, and at that moment, I think it clicked just how big of a scene she was making. The entire bar was silently staring at her. The bar owner physically pushed her out while she yelled. But that was far from the end. You see, there is some context needed to really understand my mother. I was not only the only boy in the family but also the youngest, which made me a perpetual baby in my mother's eyes. My mother often tried to infantilize me growing up. She tried to spoon-feed me when I was 18 and complained I wasn't being supportive of her when I refused to let her do things like that. Then she gaslit me when I didn't cave to her whining. Her behavior has been manipulative and narcissistic for as long as I can remember. She tended to make everything about her. Some referred to her as having a queen mother complex. She always expected to be honored and revered on any holiday because even my birthdays had to be all about her, even when she did none of the work or planning. She had other habits that were unbelievably creepy. At 46, she started openly talking about wanting to get a facelift and implants to look 20 years younger. She'd give me the side eye while saying it. My father adamantly refused to pay for such unnecessary procedures, which sparked many fights. Once, she put me on the spot in front of an entire church. She went up with me for holy bread and tried to feed it to me, then loudly told me to chew slowly. I was 22 years old. I walked out. That was the last straw. I moved out soon after, renting a small room at a friend's parents' house for $250 a month. When I was packing to leave, she begged me to stay almost the entire time. I told her, "I'm your son, not your husband. I'm sick of the way you act around me. I have my own life to live." She ran away sobbing, and we didn't talk for months. Later, my cousin told me she was going around saying I'd come running back to her any day. But when I didn't, she lost it. Years later, when I got into a new relationship, my mother's behavior reached new heights. She was passive-aggressive toward my girlfriend and referred to her as taking her baby away. She even gave her a chilling stare while holding a knife. When I told my mother I was moving 1,000 miles away, she went ballistic. 2 days before Christmas, the police kicked in the door of the house I was renting with my girlfriend. They believed we were running a drug lab. We were detained and interrogated while officers turned our yard into a flea market, arranging our belongings for inspection. They found nothing, of course. It turned out my mother had called them, claiming I was using my camper as a front to sell drugs. Police later arrested my mother at her Christmas party. Evidence showed she had flown to my state, stalked us, and taken invasive photos of our home and belongings. In court, my mother represented herself. She gave a bizarre speech claiming she was teaching me a lesson for refusing to come home. When the judge pointed out her mental instability, she threw a tantrum. Guards had to carry her out. She was sentenced to 2 years in prison. My dad, who had long endured her behavior, divorced Karen as soon as she was released. He moved closer to me, finally free of her grasp. After years of emotional and psychological abuse, I finally sought therapy to address the long-term effects of growing up with my mother's toxic behavior. Therapy helped me unpack the layers of trauma I had endured, from her manipulation to the constant infantilization and attempts to control my life. My therapist guided me through setting boundaries, managing lingering guilt, and recognizing my worth beyond the role my mother had tried to impose on me. For the first time, I felt validated in my experiences, and with each session, I reclaimed pieces of myself that I didn't even realize I had lost. Therapy became a sanctuary where I learned how to move forward and build a life not defined by my past. I haven't spoken to my mother since. She tried to reach out, claiming she's in therapy, but I told her it was too late. This is the result of her own deeds, and now she has to live with it.